Welcome to Common Mansplaining, everybody. So, crazy week. See the pyramids?
That's quite the revelation,
Yeah. So, for those of you out there who don't know yet, there was a structure discovered under the pyramids, maybe, right?
Using new ground penetrating. Is it radar? It's not exactly LiDAR, but it's like
it's called SAR. It's called synthetic aperture radar. And what they do is they basically shoot a radar. It's the same stuff that they would use to find topography, right? And it doesn't penetrate very far underground, but what this guy is doing is a new technique, which combines SAR with Doppler, with motions in the ground. So what he's doing is he's reading the vibrations underneath the surface, like 30 centimeters or something down under the surface. And based on the movements in the earth, and you fire many lasers at it, you can see how the stuff moves over time. You can eventually sort of get a feel for what's underneath the ground, right? And so subsurface structures can be determined to an extent that way. I'm not sure exactly how reliable this is yet.
Well, because this is my understanding is that the images are penetrated below bedrock. Like they've seen the pyramid is on bedrock.
Yes.
But below that bedrock, now we see an underground city with pillars supporting the bedrock so that the pyramid doesn't collapse.
Or maybe these are coils that dig deep into the earth and pull energy. Or maybe one thing I heard, which was really interesting, was that it might even be an alchemical plant. That these are pumps; they siphon up water, which is really crazy.
Some fossil water.
But supposedly, hey Tanya, how's it going? Yeah. So supposedly these are things that these pillars go down 600 meters.
Yeah.
Really.
Which is more than half a mile.
And then beneath those are these cubical structures, perfect cubes that are supposed to be beneath those, that are either part of a vast city underground, or they're part of a giant alien transformer network or something like that. Something really cool. And of course, what has happened as a consequence is that there's been this huge divide in the scientific world, right? Half of the people in the world are immediately going to this is aliens, it has to be aliens, or some incredible pre-flood civilization like Atlantis.
Pre-flood industrialization, because the mega structures are something there's been a lot of debate about the Giza temple anyway.
Right.
And other temples of its size elsewhere, though they talk about the Mexican temples aren't quite as old.
Yeah.
But
some of them.
Some of them.
Yeah.
Right. And based on what we know about the Egyptians and their understanding, there are questions whether their technology can create structures such as that.
Right.
So obviously this leads to there's a lot of hidden knowledge.
Yes.
A lot of hidden things that the Egyptians had knowledge and sophistication to a much higher level than we knew of. And where did it go? Where did they get it?
Yeah. So one of the interesting things, I actually love digging into Egyptian stuff. And one of the interesting things to know about the Egyptian pyramids, if you don't know already, is that the oldest pyramids are the biggest, the most difficult to construct, and using materials that are much more complicated to cut into. The newer pyramids are much smaller, much easier to make. It's basically weaker construction, right? It's it'd be like if you went to New York and you saw the new Twin Towers building, and that was the oldest building, and then you saw one of their old crappy brick buildings was the stuff that we made today. It just wouldn't make any sense, right? And there's a similar thing that's going on with their pottery. They have a bunch of ancient Egyptian pottery. So they say it's first pre-dynastic ancient Egyptian pottery that's where they carved somehow into red granite. Red granite is one of the hardest stones on earth.
You need carbide or diamond.
Yeah, you'd need a drill bit with red, and you'd have to have almost an industrial thing. And so what some people have guessed is hypothesized is that maybe they had this really like this really cool like melting technique where they could like put like a rod that was like essentially superheated into the stone and melt part of it away or something like that. I don't know.
Melting granites.
But right, this is like that's like thousands of degrees, right? Like
that seems harder than drilling it out with.
Hey, you never. I don't know. I don't know how because they don't have. They say they don't have
just
drills.
to make a pot. Like it's like
right. And there's I mean there's so much stuff like in the Egyptian
crocodiles lasers on there.
Yeah. There's a thing. There's a place where you can go where you can see where the Egyptians quarried some of their stones. And one of the coolest things that you can go to is that there's this huge, like enormous, like limestone block that was in the process of being cut to be an obelisk somewhere, but they just never used it. And so like you can go in and like walk around it, but it's like 30 tons or 50 tons. It's like enormous, like out absolutely one of the biggest rocks that's ever been cut out. And if you go in, like you can see these like places where they like have some kind of like it's got to be a machine, like it's like a scooping mechanism, like a steam shovel or something. Basically, would have had to like cut out from underneath the rock because humans couldn't make the marks that they're looking at, not without like modern day like literally laser technology. Could you do that? So it's insane. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that the Egyptians had that we don't know about. The pyramids themselves, the standard narrative is that they are tombs for the Egyptian pharaohs, and yet we have never discovered any dead bodies or any remains of any dead bodies in these pyramids. We've never discovered a tomb, right? They say it's a tomb.
There are lots of tombs,
right,
in other places, but not in the Great Pyramid,
right? And there's like little, like there's granite chambers, where I guess you could put a body in it, but there's never been anything found that had any kind of like remains that you can date. And so like many of the what archaeologists will call pseudoscientists, right? Because they're not part of the club, right? Many of the people that look at these pyramids, they surmise that it might be something else, might have been used for something else, like a power plant, like an alchemical plant. I saw this incredible thing the other day where this guy he walked through one of the pyramids and he showed like various places where there were different like shades on the rock indicating different chemicals that could have influenced the rock and stuff and like caused different sorts of erosion and burn marks and stuff like that. And he described that it could have been like this essentially a pressure pump that pumped water into this like pressurized chamber and it would have worked. He said like had you done it you could like essentially make what he thought would be something like ammonia, like a soap that way, okay. which is
fertilizer,
right? Fertilizer could be a lot of things used for a lot of different things. I'm not saying that that's what this was, but I just think it's fascinating that there are all these different things that the Egyptians could have been doing with these pyramids that I think probably weren't even actually made by the dynastic Egyptians, right? This is my theory.
And the Egyptians moved there and
right.
found them abandoned.
Right. And now here's another thing that's interesting. I could probably talk about this all day. It's my favorite stuff. But another thing that's interesting is that I don't know, for those of you who, let's see, so I wonder what they're doing with it. Yeah. So the trick with this new knowledge is what they're doing with is there's two sides, right? One side is they immediately jump to the conclusion that this is all real and that it's all like proof of some kind of early pre-flood civilization or something. I don't know that we're there yet.
Technology, yeah.
I don't know whether we're there yet. Like I've seen the raw data, and the raw data is it's fuzzy. It looks like a sonogram, right? Like it's a Doppler.
It's interesting enough to make us want to do more and actually go down there and see what's actually there.
Right.
Right, because you would expect in the desert or under a structure that's built on bedrock to find more bedrock.
Right. And if there's something else, now one of the other side of this coin, right? The big archaeologists, like the establishment group, are going to immediately poo-poo it. They're going to say, no, this is just all garbage. It's BS. It's not possible that this actually exists like this. And wah. And they won't go check it out, which to me makes no sense. Like, right? Like if you're a scientist and someone tells you, hey, look, we've got evidence. This is scientific evidence, by the way. These are published scientists
Just
that
tell
did
the
this.
British there's something down there that belongs in the museum.
Right?
They'll find a way.
That would work.
They'll find
That's a good idea, actually. It's really, but yeah. So meanwhile, these are published scientists, the guys with the SAR radar, right? They've done science work before. This is a new technique, but these are like serious guys who've probably published, 20, 30 papers a piece. And now they're saying like, no, we don't even want to look. It's all garbage. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, just if you think that it's garbage, go out there and prove them wrong. That's how science is supposed to work, right? All we need to do is drill a little hole in it, stick a camera and a light down there, and we'll find out real quick, right? Like, we're like, oh, look, that's how
a sandrocoscopy.
I love it. Right. Like it seemed like this would be the easiest thing in the world to check out. And it won't damage the pyramids. It's not going to hurt anybody. It's like you can do it. They've done it like 50 times or something in the Giza Plateau where they've dug in or drilled in just to check something. Not usually under the pyramid, but
they don't let you climb the pyramids anymore.
They'll let you know.
They used to. I mean, it's like, what, you're going to hurt these 4,000-year-old rocks?
Yeah, right. Well, they're probably afraid that you're going to fall and bust your own neck.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. But so the other thing I was going to tell you about the pyramids is really cool. This is called the Orion theory, or like something called have you heard about this?
No.
So the original location of the pyramids, if you were to match it up with the Nile River is right by the Giza Plateau. And if you were to assume that the Nile River is the arm of the Milky Way, the galaxy, right? Mm-hmm. And the position of the pyramids is essentially they match Orion's belt, right? Like perfectly.
What time of year?
Here's the key. The key. It matches perfectly 13,000 years ago, right when the flood happened.
Yeah.
So that's if you siphon back time to 13,000 years ago with the precession of the equinoxes and stuff, you'll have 13,000 years ago. You'll have that exact configuration on the plateau, but not just those. Also, like many of the other structures around there that date back to the same time, match. And the constellation Leo, which would have been overhead as the sun rises, like so using like astrology, ancient astrology, the zodiac. As the sun rises, you'd see the lion of the constellation Leo. It would have been right there, right over the Sphinx, who most people think was actually originally just a lion, not a Sphinx. Right? And they think that the Sphinx was carved after some kind of mistake was done to the Sphinx. And there's a lot of other proofs. Like you guys should look this up because it's really cool stuff. There's a lot of other proof. Like for example, the erosion on the side of the Sphinx indicates that it would have had to have happened like through heavy rain or extensive amounts of flooding, which couldn't have happened in the desert, right? It would have had to have happened long, right? Pre-ice age when there was still. That's when the Sahara was a lush and fertile zone and had tons of rain. So, but anyway, this stuff is awesome. I could talk about this for the rest of my life.
Well, it's really interesting because there's ideas that certain facts have been suppressed by elites because they don't have easy answers for them.
Right.
So what they can tell. So anything that they can trace to essentially the Egyptian culture that maybe came in and inherited Egypt after and found these structures already built, they're happy to jump on board with that.
Right.
Right. But anything anachronistic or anything Egyptians, right, what we would call Egyptians, they just suppress that. And
right.
So and we don't have access to the Smithsonian archives, the British Museum archives, or whatever. And so this type of thing gives us just a little taste of something that maybe they have known about and been trying to suppress, things that don't fit a narrative. Yep. So that I think is the most interesting thing is just that the elites can't control the inquisitiveness, and we need to see stuff that they can't explain. And they're like, here's something we can't explain. Look, we need to see that.
Right.
Just because you don't have an answer that you can't look smart and explain doesn't mean that we can't look at it.
Right. And I don't understand. There's so much resistance today. Like we talked about this in one of our other episodes, like with the mainstream archaeology narratives being, the Clovis Indian tribe came across the Americas first, and they weren't first. They weren't second. They weren't even third. This is one of those things where anytime you try to challenge that mainstream narrative, right? This is anytime something comes up and somebody says, "Hey, this might have been before Egyptian," and they're like, "Oh no, 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 no! The Egyptians were the first people that ever did this stuff here." And it's like, I don't even understand why it's that big of a deal. Like, just go find out, right? Like, just I don't. None of the ancient Egyptians from 5,000 years ago are alive today to be offended. Like let's just find out.
It's all Arabs that live in Egypt.
Yeah, right.